What's good, people? Apollo here. Nice for you to join me on one of my walks again today. Today, I'm going to bring something different to you. As you know, my love for cars and electric cars obviously means I'm in the market to get one. You guys are probably hearing me talk about these electric cars thinking, Apollo, man, come on, 60, 70, 80 grand. We talked about this last time, didn't we? And I told you can get a Mini for 25 grand. Some of you though are still saying, come on Apollo, that's still 25 grand. So where does that leave you? Okay, I'll tell you where it leaves you. Probably leaves you in a place where you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to be stuck with paying for petrol for the rest of my life, or at least for at least another decade. Really? Not really. Do you guys know what retrofitting is? Sure you do. Retrofitting is when you take out an engine, a gearbox, and replace it with something completely different. You all saw the Royal Wedding, didn't you? You all saw when they used an E-Type Jaguar, which was a car that's like 40 years old, and they were able to convert it into an electric car. So that thing is zero emissions, takes no better, and listen, remember, those things are guzzlers, man. Those things used to drink like a donkey. But we're at a stage now where you too can do that. There's currently a company called Transition One. Transition One is a French company. They were formed about 9 months ago, and I kind of knew about what they were doing from then. But over time, they've been able to refine their business model, and they've been able to have the ability to convert 14 cars right now as we speak from about 5,000 euros conversion rate. So you might be saying, yeah, you know what, can't afford 25, 50, 60 grand. But 5,000 euros is pretty good. That's like 4.5 grand in UK money. And I don't see that being any kind of stumbling block. So you're talking about having the ability to drive a car with zero emissions. No more engine problems. No more moving parts. No more alternator problems. No more gasket problems. No more oil leaks. No more oil changes. All gone. No more servicing charges. So cars like the Citroen C1, C3, Volkswagen Polo, and the list goes on. And what they're doing is they're converting Tesla Model 3 batteries and retrofitting them into cars. Now, the only downside to this is, while you know the Tesla floor panel can get about 250 miles, on this one, because they're having to design it for much smaller cars, remember, people think the Tesla Model 3 is a tiny car, a Mini or a Corsa or a Ford Fiesta of some sort, but actually it's quite bigger. It's much bigger. The fact that the Model Y has just been launched and they practically use 90% of the same parts for that car, and that car is coming out with a 7-seater model, so it tells you how big the Model 3 is and the Model Y. So what we've got, guys, is a situation where this conversion rate is giving those cars that I mentioned about 120 to 140 miles. It's still pretty good. I mean, unless you're making drives to Liverpool, which you probably won't be doing in a car like that, then you don't really have anything to worry about. I'm talking about city cars. And look, guys, let's be practical here. This is the first wave of cars. Right now they're working on getting the Model S floor panels, and that's when you're trying to talk about my kind of language now. Because of the car that I'm driving, I would happily pay not just 5,000 or 4,500 in UK money, but I would pay double that. I honestly would. I would pay 8 or 9 grand to convert my current BMW into a Tesla Model S floor panel. And I know those Model S's, long ranges, the new one I talked about in the last video, which will do 400 miles, because we ain't going to be doing no 57 miles an hour on the motorway. So let's, for good measure, say 350 miles. Now, I don't care whether you convert that into the car that I'm currently having and give me 250 miles. For me, it's a win-win all the way through. But it's important for me to give you guys something like this because so many people want to get into the market but are put off by the extortionate prices that we've seen from the likes of Audi, Tesla, Volkswagen. How it works is, guys, there's only two things really with an electric car. That's the drivetrain motor and the batteries. And the battery literally costs 60% of the car itself. And battery prices have been coming down because obviously more electric cars, more refinement, more lithium, and now they're working on solid state batteries. So all this technology is going at warp speed right now. And the prices are being reduced yearly by double figures, 15% in the last year. The prices of these things are getting better, and that cost is going to move over to the buyer. Now, Tesla have just announced that the Model S, Model X, and the Model 3 have all been reduced. Now, there's two things for that. One is because obviously the cost of the raw materials, which I talked about, which are becoming cheaper because Tesla are now making more cars. So you'd think the process is going to be easier. The materials are going to be cheaper. The more you make, the cheaper it is to actually build the car. But normally when Tesla does this, we see this happening because they're on the crux of designing something new. So let's talk about plaid technology, million-mile battery, solid state. You know, they're ready to launch something new, and that's the reason why they're able to push out these discounts, because they just want to get rid of the stocks that they got. So all of this is good news for you guys. All of this is great news for buyers. I mean, you also got cars like the e-Niro, yeah, from Kia, which is about £31,000 in UK money. And the car, and that's with, by the way, that's with government grant. And the car is fantastically well built. Me and Lisa have test driven one before. And it has all the whistles and bells. And look, I told you before, the best car that I've ever driven, EV, is the Audi e-tron. The Audi e-tron, in my opinion, is the most comfortable. It's the quietest car, has the best interior, and it has a very strange battery design. People have complained because it only does 200 miles range. But this is a sports performance car. And the problem with things is just like the Porsche Taycan. When people say, oh, it only does 200 miles. But listen, if you buy a Porsche, what do you expect? The thing's going to be doing about 15 miles to the gallon. So you can't be buying no Porsche and expecting it to do 300 miles. Because not even the gas ICE versions can do that. So overall, guys, I think this is a great place for us to be. And I think that the most advantage that buyers have is options. We always want options. And when we got those options, it allows us to do all these different crazy things, like invest in new cars. So you guys have got three things happening here. One, the cost of electric cars over the last 10 years has greatly decreasing, they're coming down. So that means that you'll be able to buy a plethora of cars, and so Auto Trade and all these other affiliations will be able to show all these cars, and the prices then will come down. We're already seeing Model S's, which cost about £80,000. We're already seeing a reduction in those in the second market of around £30,000. So again, this is something that's just going to keep on trickling over into the market. And Tesla is obviously going to be doing something about these batteries on these cars that are 9, 10 years old. The second thing is the city cars, the one that I talked about the other day, like the minis, which are 25,000. Those are market ready, yeah? Those are ready to go, so not a big investment. The third thing is the new technology. The new technology coming in, which I talked about in terms of the batteries, is going to push the current generation of cars down the pecking order. And it will decrease the value of those cars greatly. Just like what happens when a new computer is launched with a new technology from Intel or AMD. Same with the new graphics card. Same thing that happens. A new technology coming out, just like what happens when a new car number plate comes out. The previous year before always gets decreased greatly because it's now seen as an old commodity. So guys, that's where it is on that. Some good things coming, guys, from electric cars. And the next time we'll be talking about them, I'll be doing my top 5 electric cars in the UK to invest in and my reasons why. Okay guys, speak to you later, man. Peace out. Right back at you. Hashtag stay home, hashtag with me. I'm out.